Princess Zara stumbled through the forest, each step a battle against the searing pain in her leg. Her once ornate robes, torn and dirt-streaked, clung to her as she pushed through the thick undergrowth of Lethra's crimson forest. She didn't dare look back. Her uncle's soldiers had left her here to die, stripped of her royal status and mercy alike. She was now in exile in her own land. She sank against the trunk of a towering redwood, her strength nearly gone. The weight of betrayal felt heavier than the ache in her body. Zara closed her eyes, searching for solace in her planet's hum, the subtle energy she'd been attuned to since birth. But even the familiar thrum of Lethra's life force felt distant, unreachable. She felt utterly alone. Then she sensed something, a strange, foreign presence. The energy rippled through the forest, a sharp contrast to the familiar pulses of Lethran life. Zara's eyes opened wide as she focused, straining to connect with it, though its energy felt different, alien. And then, not far from where she sat, the sky tore open with a flash and a metallic object plummeted to the ground, crashing with a thundering boom. Heart-pounding, Zara forced herself to move. She climbed down a steep ravine, her pulse racing with both fear and desperate hope. At the edge of the crash site, Zara gasped. A small human shuttle lay scattered in debris, flames licking its fractured frame. She instinctively reached out with her mind, attempting to sense any survivors. Amid the wreckage, she detected a faint presence, a creature's distress, mingled with confusion and fear. Following the feeling, she climbed through the debris and froze. Lying on its side, struggling to rise, was a creature with fur like nightfall and eyes that burned with fierce intelligence. It was unlike any life form she'd seen, yet Zara knew what it was. A human dog, part of the human military units that sometimes visited Lethra. Her tutors had spoken of them, tales of creatures loyal to humans above all else. The dog staggered, its movements pained, but it growled softly, sensing her approach. Zara extended her hand, sending out a wave of calm energy. She focused, letting her empathy reach toward him, her mind touching his in the gentlest way possible. The growling stopped, replaced by a wary gaze. The creature, Rex, as she soon sensed his name to be, was confused, lost without his human handler, and yet he clung to his training, searching for someone to protect. Rex, she whispered aloud, feeling his name on her lips. Through her telepathic touch, she conveyed a silent plea for help, hoping he'd understand. His eyes met hers, and in that moment, a bond formed, a fragile understanding that they were both alone here, both left behind. With a tentative step, Rex approached her, nudging her hand with his nose. Zara, grateful beyond words, leaned against him. She let him lead her to a small, sheltered spot by the river, where she could clean her wounds. As she settled, she felt a warmth she hadn't known since her exile began. Rex stayed beside her, watching over her with fierce loyalty, his eyes never leaving her. She was no longer alone, and together, perhaps, they had a chance to survive. The days blurred together as Zara and Rex learned to survive in the crimson wilds of Lethra. Zara's wounds were healing slowly, thanks to the river's mineral-rich waters and the medicinal leaves Rex had guided her to, drawn by instincts she didn't fully understand. Each morning, Zara woke to the sight of Rex curled beside her, his amber eyes watchful and ready. He was always there, his silent presence a comfort she hadn't known she needed. Zara observed him closely, trying to understand his ways. Rex seemed to sense dangers long before she could, his ears pricking up at the slightest sound, his body tense and alert. She could feel his concern ripple through their bond whenever a predator drew near, or whenever she stumbled, still weakened from her injuries. And although they shared no words, their connection grew stronger, Zara's empathy sinking with Rex's instincts until it felt as though they moved as one. She tried to speak to him, testing words and gestures in hopes of reaching through the barrier between their minds. Rex, she'd call softly, beckoning him toward her whenever she discovered edible plants or gathered the sweet fruit he loved. He would come, his tail swishing once in acknowledgement, before returning to his watchful stance, always on alert for threats. The bond between them grew deeper one night when a storm broke over the forest. Thunder rolled through the trees, and lightning fractured the sky. Rex paced anxiously, his ears pinned back, his body tense. Zara, sensing his distress, reached out with her mind, sending him waves of calm as she had the first night they'd met. Slowly, he settled beside her, his body pressed close against hers, finding comfort in her presence. "It's all right, Rex," she murmured, stroking his fur. "You're safe with me, as I am with you." The storm eventually passed, leaving the forest quiet once more. But the encounter had stirred something within her. She realized, with a pang, that Rex wasn't just helping her out of duty or survival. His loyalty ran deeper than mere instinct. She was his companion now, a bond he took seriously, and one she vowed to protect as best she could. As the days passed, Zara noticed Rex's strength and confidence growing, his body healing from his own injuries sustained in the crash. Together, they became a team, navigating the forest with ease, relying on one another for guidance and protection. Zara began to sense not just his presence, but his intentions, a flicker of curiosity when he discovered a new scent, a flash of protectiveness whenever she stumbled, and a quiet contentment when they shared meals. One morning, as they approached a stream, Rex suddenly froze. His hackles rose, and he positioned himself between Zara and something hidden in the shadows. Peering through the trees, she spotted it, a venomous serpent, coiled and ready to strike. But Rex, unwavering, let out a low, guttural growl that sent the creature slithering away. Zara exhaled a breath she hadn't realized she was holding. "Thank you, Rex," she whispered, feeling a rush of gratitude. She placed her hand on his head, letting their bond convey the words she couldn't say. Through him, she had discovered strength she hadn't known she possessed, and in her, he had found a purpose far beyond his original training. In that moment, they both knew they were no longer just surviving. They were protecting each other. Zara's peaceful days with Rex ended abruptly when she felt a disturbance ripple through the forest. She stiffened, sensing the approach of unfamiliar minds, cold, focused, and ruthless. Her uncle's soldiers. They had found her. She crouched low, her heart pounding as she searched the trees. Her injuries hadn't healed enough for her to flee, and she knew they would show no mercy if they found her. Rex sensed her tension, his ears flattening as he scanned the forest, his body tense with readiness. "Rex," she whispered, reaching out to him through their bond. She sent him a series of images, a plan she hoped he'd understand. She needed him to lure the soldiers away, to buy her time to escape deeper into the forest. It was a dangerous task, but Zara had seen Rex's bravery. She believed in him. Rex met her gaze, his eyes sharp and unwavering, as if understanding her every thought. With a final nudge against her hand, he turned and bounded into the undergrowth, his movements swift and silent. Zara watched him go, her heart tight with worry, but also a flicker of hope. Rex was smart, resourceful. He would find a way back to her. Moments later, shouts erupted from the soldiers nearby, followed by the sound of snapping branches and thudding footsteps. Zara knew Rex had succeeded in drawing their attention. Summoning what strength she had, she slipped into the opposite direction, moving as quickly as her injured leg allowed. She wound through the trees, weaving in and out of shadows, her breath shallow and focused. As she reached a sheltered area by a cluster of dense shrubs, Zara sank to the ground, exhaustion washing over her. She closed her eyes, reaching out with her mind to sense Rex's presence in the distance. She could feel his pulse, steady, fierce, unwavering. He was still running, still leading the soldiers away from her. Time passed, and the forest grew quiet once more. Zara's worry grew. She could no longer sense the soldiers, nor could she feel Rex's presence. Fear clawed at her. What if he had been captured? Or worse? Then, a rustle broke the silence, and Rex appeared through the trees, his fur matted and his breath heavy, but unharmed. Zara's relief was so intense, she felt tears prick her eyes. She reached out to him, and he pressed his head into her hand, his own exhaustion palpable. They sat in silence for a moment, each catching their breath. But they both knew this was only a temporary reprieve. The soldiers would return, and next time, Rex might not be able to lead them away so easily. Zara felt a spark of resolve ignite within her. She could no longer keep running and hiding, relying on Rex's strength to shield her. "We can't keep doing this, can we?" she murmured, looking into Rex's eyes. He stared back, his gaze steady and fierce, as if encouraging her to make a stand. A plan formed in her mind. If she could lead the soldiers into an ambush, perhaps she could end this pursuit once and for all. She would need Rex's help, but she knew he would follow her into any danger. Together, they were more than hunter and hunted. They were a team, and they would face her enemies side by side. With renewed determination, Zara rose, and Rex fell into step beside her. They were ready. The night was thick with tension as Zara and Rex prepared for the inevitable confrontation. Zara had chosen an area of the forest where dense, ancient trees would give them cover and make it harder for her uncle's soldiers to surround them. She knew the terrain well, every hidden path and concealed vantage point. And with Rex by her side, she felt ready. Zara knelt beside Rex, her hand resting gently on his head. She closed her eyes, reaching out to him through their bond, sharing images of the plan she had formed. She sent him glimpses of the coming danger, the soldiers who would soon appear, and the positions they would need to hold. Rex's steady, unwavering presence reassured her, and she felt his fierce determination coursing back to her. The distant crackle of footsteps snapped Zara back to reality. The soldiers were closing in, their shadows flickering through the trees. Zara took a deep breath, steadying her nerves. She placed a hand on Rex's back, and he sprang forward, disappearing into the darkness, like a ghost. Her heart pounded as she watched him go, trusting him to take up his position. Moments later, a shout broke out from one of the soldiers, and then another. Rex had drawn their attention, exactly as they had planned. Zara took advantage of the confusion, slipping into a hidden alcove where she'd laid a trap of tangled vines and thorny undergrowth. She waited, her senses heightened, feeling the presence of her enemies moving toward her. Two soldiers pushed through the undergrowth, eyes scanning the darkness. Zara held her breath, letting them come closer. When they were only a few steps away, she reached out with her mind, focusing all her energy on stirring a sudden feeling of dread within them. The soldiers faltered, glancing at each other uneasily. In that moment of hesitation, Rex leaped from the shadows, his powerful jaws clamping down on the nearest soldier's arm, his growl low and menacing. The second soldier tried to react, but Zara seized the moment, pulling on her empathic abilities to unsettle his mind, filling him with fear and confusion. He stumbled, disoriented, as Rex released his grip on the first soldier and turned to face him. With a final snarl, Rex chased the remaining soldier into the trees, leaving the pair incapacitated. Zara's breath came in short gasps, but there was no time to rest. She could sense more soldiers approaching, their minds sharp with focus. She gathered her strength, feeling her bond with Rex grow stronger as they fought together, united in purpose. He returned to her side, his eyes meeting hers, fierce and loyal. Just as the remaining soldiers closed in, a group of Lethran rebels emerged from the shadows, loyalists who had been watching Zara's bravery and had come to support her. They flanked the soldiers, catching them off guard. In the chaos, Zara and Rex struck, each move precise and synchronized. The forest became a battleground, lit only by the flashes of energy weapons and the shadows of bodies moving in combat. When the fight ended, Zara stood amidst the fallen soldiers, her loyalists surrounding her. Rex, battered but standing tall, remained at her side. She knelt beside him, running a hand along his fur, her heart swelling with gratitude and admiration. "We did it, Rex," she whispered. The dog nuzzled her hand, his eyes filled with an understanding that went beyond words. As dawn broke over the crimson forest, Zara looked around at her people, at the loyalists and at Rex, her steadfast protector. She knew the battle for her throne was far from over, but with Rex by her side, she had found a new strength. Together, they would face whatever came next.